Hi there and welcome back to the next stage of these tutorials. In this stage we're going to start to focus on the indoor assets. Okay, now by this stage hopefully you will have created various outdoor objects that can be used and repeated and tiled. Again, we should have we should have our character with all sort of viewpoints. And by this stage we should have really started to nail down our designs. So just to sort of recap, my outdoor designs, my thumbnails were these. Okay, we've got various different styles of environments, and the one that I was really sort of aiming for in this instance was this one here. Okay, the reason being that I quite like this old quirky sort of buildings, gave a sort of foresty atmosphere as well. And obviously some cobble pavements, and as you can see in my sheet, that's what I've done. I've got cobbles, I've got some trees that are going to make it quite foresty, and obviously we have various other additional pieces, okay, to fit around that environment. Now this week we're focusing on indoor, as I said, so let's take a look at what I've got. So not as many thumbnails this time. I sort of had a really sort of clear idea of what I wanted to go with, so I didn't explore too much in what I wanted to do, and I think I'm going to incorporate elements of all of these, where we have this indoor environment here with like a trapdoor. We have this where it's like a sort of bar sort of type place, like an inn. It's quite eerie and dark with some various bits of furniture, and again we have a sort of like a kitchen space with like a tree sort of growing through the building. And we have some sort of dungeon prison area with some objects running through. Now again, I mean, these aren't final. I'm not 100% happy with them, and I probably will change them later. But for the purposes of these, we're gonna use these. Okay, so I'll show you what I have so far. So I'll talk you through it. So let me just zoom in. So we have an outdoor building. Okay, I am intending to add bits that can be extended, so we can actually double the building up, or we can extenuate it long ways. We may want to consider creating a different perspective as well, so from the side, so the door's actually on the side of the building rather than at the front facing. And again, we have two wall pieces that fit together side by side. Okay. That actually fit quite nicely onto the floor. Okay, and as you can see here, we have two top corner pieces, two middle center pieces, and two bottom pieces that can all fit together and can be obviously retiled and retiled and retiled, however big your building is. In addition to that, I've got two different types of windows. I've got quite a squared window and quite a round one as well. Okay, I also have a table. Okay, very sort of cool, sort of textured surface, where I would imagine like a tree with a lot of bark sort of peeling away has been used as it's aged. We've got one candle at two different angles. We have the bar stool here, sort of see as it sort of fits there, and will fit on top, or we can poke it behind. We also have a bookshelf. Okay. A trapdoor, some objects for the table, so we've got a plate, a jug, a key, and an actual book itself, so we can actually populate that environment. Have a trapdoor, as you would have seen in my designs, that can lead down to the dungeon potentially. And then we have a chest, which obviously will contain items that can be obviously used by our character. Okay, so again, I've got objects that open up to other areas. I've got objects that give us items. We've covered a real large surface area, and we've also covered some walls. Okay, so if we just take a look at this as well, I think this is the one I wanted to get up. Yeah. Okay, so this is the scene I've been working off. That's not the scene, that was the second scene, sorry. So let's just open up this one. I think is this our one? Let's take a look. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so let's just turn all these back on. So this time I've actually been building the scene up for building the assets within the scene as well. To keep this way, it helps us keep everything sort of in scale, in addition to using the guides, and also gets an idea of how everything sort of fits together and feels, and keeps that consistency going. Okay, so this is the room that I have so far, and obviously I've put the character in just to make sure that she fits in there quite nicely. Is able to sort of walk around the different areas. That might be a bit tight, so we may have to move that over. But again, you know, can walk around. So what we're going to do is, in this session, we're going to start with the two back objects, which is the walls. So we're just going to check the size of these. So again, I've kept these at 32 by 64 because we're going with the with this sort of style of isometric, where we're extending the tops and the sides like we've done with the chest, but we're not revealing those, we're not showing it from another angle. So we're working with the front and the back, or the top or the bottom, and these the top surface, which whether it be the roof for instance, or whether it be the back wall. So again, we need more surface area to walk around, but we also, so these don't really need to be as big. However, if we are in a big sort of hall, or if you're in a really tall building, you may want to make those bigger and actually show that that is actually a really high up building. Okay, so if we go back to the hut that I sort of designed, which is here, you know, we can, let's turn these off. We can see that actually, you know, we've tried to keep within that style. Okay, you know, it's got a low roof. It's just like a small hut that's going to be out about in the forest, the sort of things that you might see typical of a forest. And so obviously it need, you know, the scale of the building needs to reflect that. So if you have a much bigger building, then do it much bigger. Now I recommend that we keep within inside these guides. So if you're going to do a taller piece, maybe do it 128 by 64, which would cover this whole sort of side, maybe. Or maybe you want to do the full circle, which is 128 by 128, I believe. And you know, so really think about the scale in comparison to your character. So if I just turn my character back on, so again, obviously we can see that she'll fit up to that door. If I just bring her above, she'll go up to that door. You know, it's feasible to believe that she can get in there. Okay, so always measure it against your character as well. Obviously my character being this size, should fit in there perfectly. And this is obviously 64 by 64. We're not going to go through the building, but if you wish to create the building, then do so. But we're going to start. So we'll go to File, New, and as I said, we want it to sort of fit within my building, so we're going to take it by 32 by 64. Okay, and we're going to call this walls. Okay, and we've gone the wrong way around, sorry. So what we can do, if you have done it that way, we can just go to File, Image Rotation, and go 90 degrees clockwise, and that'll just turn it around for us. That solves that. So we have this big area. Now what I'll recommend is we sort of find where our midpoint is. If you fancy tiling it up from there, but what we're going to do is create two segments that are going to fit side by side, and so the corners are going to be shadowed in, creating those sort of dark eerie corners. And because my obviously main building is wooden, we need to follow that sort of design. Okay, so obviously you can change the layout on my building. On the inside I have them going down, so what I recommend as well, that you know, you break up the design a little bit. So whereas mine are going back across, let's just get this up. So obviously my floorboards are going across, so these are going down just to break it up. If these went across as well, we probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them. So you need to be really considerate of how they clash against each other. Now obviously these can go across the back of my building, they can go down, it's not a problem. Okay, but do try to keep those consistencies aware. Okay, so colour palette. So what I did was I worked off my original sheet with this wood here. Okay, and the idea was that I'd borrow off these, and then I'd add a couple of darker colour and a lighter colour. Sorry, a darker colour and another mid colour. Okay, so I mean, it's up to you. What I recommend though is you find your sort of mid tone. Now with the walls I've made slightly darker than the floor, and my mid tone, as you can see, was this, was it this one? Yep, it was this one here. Okay, and then there's 2 iterations darker. So find your mid-tone. Okay, we're going to create a new layer. We're going to call this just brushes or something like that. Okay, or colours. Sorry, not brushes. Yeah, we'll go with colour palette because that's what it is. That makes more sense. I don't know why I did the other one. And what we're going to do is create some just darker shades. So I could follow these, but for this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do it. So obviously I borrowed off these wooden pieces that I made before, but if you haven't got any of those to reference, you can go to colour picker, start with your original colour, and we can sort of pick the darkest that we want to go to, which I imagine would be there, and we can add that here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is open up our colour picker again, and what we're going to do is just check where these are. So as you can see within the middle we actually have this space here, so we're going to pick a colour from right bang in the middle there, and then hopefully if we take a look we have a nice free sort of tier blend, okay, that we can use as reference. And actually what we're going to do is just make them slightly bigger. So we're just going to paint these up just to give us a little bit more of a surface area. If we zoom out, eventually they'll blend here. Okay, so what we're going to do is start by lining up where we want these things to go, how we're going to construct our wall. Okay, so some of you may have brick walls, you may have like cave entrances and things like that, so just think about how you want those rocks and stuff to flow. Okay, obviously with mine being wood, we could quite easily just take our colour and I could very easily just go in a straight line all the way across. Okay, so let's just do that. Again, I do recommend taking regular breaks between your brush strokes, because that way if you need to undo, it becomes very easier. So we could go, so we could go straight across. Okay, and we could very easily fill that in at this stage. Now the problem with this is that the wood's going to look very, very, very manufactured. Okay, and by manufactured I mean it's going to look as though it's been made in again, just trying to get that across my wrist. Can't make it if I zoom out a little bit. Hopefully that'll. Nope, that hasn't helped. So yeah, again, you know, just paint it in. Sorry, it's really tight from where I'm sitting at the desk, so I'm just going to turn around a little bit. I'm going to touch the other way. There we go. So it's going to look too much like too manufactured, and you know we don't want that look. Okay, we really do not want that look. So if we zoom out a little bit, you know, we're starting to look like it's been made in a factory, that everything's perfect, it's been cut down to size, it looks like the sort of furniture that you get in your bedroom. Okay, and you know, it doesn't look natural, it doesn't look like it's been grown out of the earth, much like the outdoor environment does. So we want to bring that sort of style back in. Okay, so what we're going to do is take the darker colour. Well, what I'm going to do is take the darker colour, and I'm going to paint in 2 posts that look quite sort of natural, like a tree or something like that has been used to hold up the corner. Okay, so again, just going to bring that in. Probably not on this side actually. We could, well no, actually we think we could have that. I could have a different set of walls. So whereas this one, I haven't actually included them in really that much, but in this one what we're going to do is actually have these 2 posts that have on the outside building showing on the inside as well. So we're going to draw those, and then what we're going to do is draw our lines across. So go back to your building reference if you have one, or your designs. Okay, and actually just see how many you sort of got in there, because we want the designs to correlate. I've gone down at the top, so yeah, we'll follow that. So how many have we got going across? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 and a half, because obviously that half gets doubled up. So we've already got 2, so we just need to sort of fill in 10 parts, I think. And so we're going to create a new layer actually, sorry, and we're just going to cut these off. Oh, that creates a new layer. Control Shift Control X. Oh yeah, right layer, sorry. Control X. We'll cut it, and then obviously Control Shift V will paste it back in place. We can select all these layers, click merge. We're just going to rename this wall outline, maybe something like that, but we'll paint over it. And what we're going to do is then paint So we're just going to bring these out a little bit. So we're just going to paint down basically. Okay. Now these need to be sort of jaggedy. They need to look like they were natural. Okay. But I don't recommend drifting too far either side, because obviously we start to get massive difference, and I wouldn't, you know, I'd say maybe in one or two cases we can probably deviate a little bit more. But yeah, so again, this will add to that sort of rustic, hand carved look that we're going for. It will make it feel much believable. What I recommend is as well, you don't just go in one direction, that we go sort of up. Okay, I think that might be too much. Anything too far out will feel as though it's been it'll be identifiable when we repeat the patterns over and over, and we don't want that. So again, we can have these different sort of sizes. Okay, so we have our individual slats on the inside, and we have our tree going in there. So imagine the tree is going to be quite dark on the edges, and it's going to be light in the centre where the most light's going to hit off it. If we imagine like a light in the centre of the room, and that's how we want to do it. So on the floor as well, I did add a sort of rocky little bit just going across. This just sort of acts as like a little buffer for the floor. Okay, but in this instance, because we have these tree parts coming down, I'd like to actually use more detail of those. Anyway, so we have our sort of edges in, and now what we're going to do is take our midtone and we're going to paint that on top. Okay, so we're just going to bring the colour palette up slightly, so we've got a bit more of that, and now we're just going to fill in all of these. Now we could paint them, or we could actually speed that process up with the bucket tool. So if you hold down this, if you've got the gradient tool up, push bucket. Also, as you can see there, the G, that is the brings up the bucket tool. If you push G, if you hold Shift G, sorry, Control Z, that creates a group. I think it's Alt and G. No, okay. Ignore me. I thought I had a shortcut the other day. So make sure we've got our wall outline selected, and we can just start to fill these in, just like that. Okay. Now, what we want to do is to start to add our lighting. Okay. So go back to the pencil tool. Yeah, if you want, you can use brush if you want a more paint effect. So I'll just show you what that might look like. So where we start to blend these in, and in fact, actually, we might use brush just for a different effect. Okay, so we get more tones. Remember, the more shades you get, the more your memory will go up as the colour adds to your data, the different tones. So the more you use, the bigger file size you're going to have, which means that could affect the performance of your game. So again, we're just going to keep painting over these. For some reason it's stopped. Oh, because I've painted on the colour palette, that's why. There we go. So let's just get the eraser quickly, make sure on colour palette, and just take these away. There we go. Go back to our brush, and we're going to paint these on. So again, we haven't focused so much on the brush tool in these tutorials so far, so I think we'll use that. Again, you can do this as a solid colour. Okay, that's perfectly fine. As you can see from the examples, you know, it works perfectly well. But again, you know, you might want to keep the consistency of your piece. So, you know, please bear that in mind whenever you do anything like this. Consistency is what gets us the results. And so basically, we're going to paint the middle because we want the middle to look like it's, you know, either the most unworn, it's got the most light. Actually, the edges are the most grubby because they've been worn down, where people have hand carved these sort of grooves in. Okay, and we're just going to bring that out nicely. So we don't want to go. There we are, and instantly we've got this really sort of cool wood effect. What we want to do now is actually paint some more of this darker shadow in around the edges. Okay, because we really want to bring that out. We want to show that, you know, this is a dark and dingy hut in the middle of a forest, you know, and so it creates the sense that it's eerie, that you know, that there is a potential for danger at any point, because we want the person playing the game to experience that something could happen at any time. Because obviously in this RPG, you know, it's a quest. We have to go out and find things. Some of those things are going to be dangerous. Some of them aren't. You know, I want this to be a building that has a mystery to it, an air mystery, because obviously it's going to have chests and things around, and they're there to be explored. And so we can just, again, just paint some of this darker shadow back in. I mean, we just have to, if you're having trouble with your monitor, then please don't be afraid to sort of change your head position, because sometimes it can be difficult, especially with these white sort of lines where it's revealing the pixels to us to sort of see. And go at the top as well. And we've painted over the colour palette, which is not good. Again, apologies for that. Please make sure you're painting on the right part. So what we're going to do is just take our colours again. What we're going to do is we're going to rename this wall paint, and we're just going to create a new layer, and this time we are going to lock it. So get our pencil brush, going to get these colours, we'll paint them up in the corner where we're probably going to give them less damage, and we just need that mid-tone. There we go. We're going to call this colour palette, and we're just going to lock it and hide it for now, because now we've got the colours on, we don't really need it anyway. And what we're going to do is just merge these, so it should be called wall paint. Okay, so let's just zoom out a little bit, let's see how that looks. Cool, so we're starting to get a nice sort of eerie looking room. That's pencil tool, let's go back to our brush. So, okay, I'm kind of happy with that, and now what we need to do is start to paint in this. So what we're going to do is go for our strongest. I'm going to start with the brush, pencil, so go down to pencil tool. We're going to start with our lightest colour just to separate it from this background, and then we're going to blend that back into the scene. Okay, so what we're going to do is just bring this out, actually make it just feel like it's encompassing that environment. Okay, and obviously it's, we're going to add some little twigs and stuff on as well later, just to make it really stand out. And then what we're going to do is take our mid-tone, so just turn on the colour palette, grab that mid-tone, hide it again, select the wall paint layer, and we're just going to start to paint this in. Just want to do that. Okay, I'm going to give this a little bit more texture. Previous bit. Now these parts where the shadows are going to be the darkest, because they're going to be further away, like curving in. So this middle bit of the tree needs to be the lightest. Okay, and obviously we can have some bits up here revealing that light, and maybe we actually have some other parts. Now these trunk bits may have light reflecting off their edges. Okay, so these bits at the base of the tree, so we can actually capitalise on that slightly. Okay, let's just have a look at how that looks. Yeah, I think that kind of works. Now what we need to just be aware of as well is these two are going to obviously potentially link up. So what we're going to do is do exactly the same on the other side. So let's get our mid-tone, and we're just going to add it into these parts here. Okay, and once we've got that in, we're just going to place these on the edge again. Maybe bring to the centre. This top of it, the centre's going to be a little bit opposite way around. There we go. And yeah, I think that should break up quite nicely. So yeah, I think that works. Okay, so I'm not going to paint those in brush. I don't think there's enough pixels there to warrant us to sort of do that. Okay, what we are going to do is just add some smaller parts onto these using the dark colour, just to make them stand out. Okay, obviously these little blemishes just make it look a little bit more natural. I mean, if you're doing stone, you may want to add, like what we did with the pebbles, and actually add some bits of green maybe to show some like sort of stone mould, or add a little bit different tones of grey in there maybe, just to break that up over the top with a soft brush. You know, maybe there is a little bit of dirt, little bits of dirt in there. Okay, so cool. So essentially what we have now is a wall piece. Now what we want to do is add shadow in the corners to make it feel as though it's separated. Now I did add a beam going across, like a sort of just like a partition. You know, it sort of ran like that. Okay, across the middle. I'm not going to do that this time, but what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer. Now we're going to rename this one wall paint right, because this is going to be our right point, and this one's going to be our left wall paint left. Okay, remember to save your work. So if you haven't done so at this stage, then please do. I'm going to go walls and call this one walls 2. And what we are going to do is we're just going to separate these. So we've got wall left, that's right. So right needs to be moved right, left needs to be moved left. Let's check these trees, this join in the middle actually matches up and works okay. So I think that's looking okay. I'm not too convinced about this part down here, so what we're going to do is actually remember to be working on the right, which is this side. I'm just going to bring this down, actually make it feel as though it's a little bit more together. There we go. Okay, and actually I'm going to bring this part around a little bit more. Okay, maybe, oh, I don't want to drift onto that side. I do apologise, yeah, I do want to make sure we paint on this side. I think actually maybe we might need to bring the shadow out on this bit. So yeah, what we're going to do is get our brush, because what's happening is this line isn't thick enough, and actually if this was in the foreground closest to us, you know, it would actually cast more of a shadow on these parts. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually just paint that in, and obviously with the darker piece as well, using the brush, we're going to bring that around. Okay, and then we're going to do the same on the right side. So get our shadow, we're going to just paint that going around, and we're going to take this, a darker colour, and we're going to paint that in as well. Okay, actually make it look like it's joining in the middle, it's casting at the shadow. There we go, look at that, it's starting to look really sort of cool now, especially with the paintbrush. I'm just going to merge these in a little bit more. If you keep layering them on top as well, as those pigments blend, you'll get a real varied tone, variation in tones. Okay, so we're just going to bring that up. So what we're going to do now as well is just take the bits that we've done on that side, and you know, you can't always help it, you can't always be in complete control, but as long as you rectify after that, you know, that gives you that control back. So if we highlight that and go Control X, it will cut it underneath. Left paint, we'll go Control V. Now make sure this layer is underneath, well on top, sorry, but what we need to do, because we're going to merge down, we need to take the title of this, so double select, Control C, replace it there, and then when we merge the layer down, just make sure that's visible, we go merge down, it will merge it on top of the one underneath, and there we go. Now what we need to do is, do we have a bit drifting over on that? Yeah, we do. Okay, so now we just need to copy this part. Actually, I think no, hang on a minute. I think we've when we copied it, we didn't push Control Shift V. That's the problem. Control Shift V, and it will paste it in place. Okay, and then we can Control V, Enter, merge down. Cool. So once that's on, we've got it great. We've got starting to get these to match up quite nicely. We just need to perhaps bring from the right layer. So I want to do all those. Shift. Cool. And then we can go to the right one, and then we can just add a bit more of this light bit, maybe. Okay. So what we need to do now is create some little bits of twigs coming off. I'm on the wrong layer again. Let's just get the eraser on that. And we're going to get the pencil tool, not the brush, and what we're going to do is on this side we're just going to draw in some twigs coming off, okay? Some bits, just to make it feel that little bit more organic. Probably 2 pixels is enough. We can do we'll keep them both really light as well, just to make sure they stand out. And obviously we're going to do those, and then we're going to actually add the shadow around that to actually give it a little bit more of a round definition, okay? And then we're going to just take it back a little bit. There we are, okay? And let's take a look. Yeah, I think that's looking okay now, okay? So let's just check if we haven't overlapped. So we've got 2 bits there, so that's that lighter colour. So we'll just select that, hit the eraser, and we know it's just across from there. Let's select this layer. So I get the brush, go back to that layer, and I think it was higher up, wasn't it? There we are. So yeah, cool. So now we've got that side sorted. So what we need to do now we have these 2 separate bits, is just to focus on the actual other corners, okay? So let's just move them, do them one at a time. Let's reposition the right, hide that, reposition the left. So what we need to do is actually we're going to take our brush tool, and we're going to go for a dark shadows. Let's just take that again, and I think we might need to just go a little bit darker than that. We're going to increase the brush size. That's probably too much. And again, we're just going to sort of start painting that in. And I'm not sure if that's a little too dark. But again, you know, once we start moving outwards, it should fit in quite nicely. Okay. And no, I don't like it. I don't think. Let's take it back. I think the colour's actually too dark. Okay, so we're going to take our darkest brown, and actually we're just going to paint over the top of that. And then we're just going to really sort of base this side in a little bit. We're going to go back into the tree as well, down this side. And actually, what we'll do, rather than brush it on, we're going to actually do that with the pixels themselves. And then we're going to hide that, take the right, and we're just going to paint that on there as well. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select our mid-tone, and then where we have the lightest bits, we're actually going to select the pencil tool, and we're just going to paint that mid-tone back on there. Yeah. And then with the shadow, we're just going to add some bits of definition in to show that. And we'll go back to our overall piece, and we'll do exactly the same. We're just going to paint in. Oh. We're just going to paint in these parts, okay? And actually, we're going to take the shadow and just paint that darker. Okay, cool. So what we have now is our left, our right, and by default what we should actually have as well is if we wanted to make a specific middle piece, we could easily take that, and hopefully these 2 sides would actually match up. So what we can do, we can test that out. So select the whole scene, press Control Shift and C. Go back to your sort of sprite sheet area, and then let's test this out. Let's try tiling it. Excuse me, just a burp again. Yep, it works absolutely fine. Okay, so what you could do as well is actually take the middle piece and change this over slightly, so when they do repeat, the actual pole in the middle isn't the same. But if you just want to keep your asset sheet nice and slim and tidy, then you can. Again, does it work with these? I think it does. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we need to get a little bit darker on those floor in the corner, in the floor bits in the corner. But obviously with our next versions of these, we can actually, you know, sort that out. Okay. So I'm gonna leave this room here because obviously this is going to be where my character walks. Okay. So what I may do is move all my assets down here, all these indoor assets I should say, all my objects. I'm going to move these down. We still have to line these up for the final sheet, so don't worry too much if you're a bit worried that they're a bit all over the place, because at the moment they're not. These ones are in particular aren't going to be lined up with anything. So let's just move these over here. Let's get the chair in. Move these over, and then maybe move the windows as well. And obviously we should have enough room then for these additional assets, so we're going to have the middle piece down there, and then we're going to go back and we're going to now go and Control D. What we're going to do is move these across back to their original position. Control Shift C, go to the sprite sheet, push Control V. Now obviously these aren't going into the right folder, but we're going to make a new folder in a second. That one is the right. Okay, and then let's just hide that and Control D because we don't want to break it up. Select that, Control C, Control V. Okay, so we have a kind of cool looking 3 wall pieces. And what we're going to do is we're going to select them, create a new folder, move them up to the top. Now what I've done is I've created an indoor folder. Within that there's a building folder, and then within that we have objects, candles, bookcase, table and chair, chest, windows, floor, trapdoor, walls. Okay, so I'm going to don't want to create a new folder, so let's go Control Z. We're going to call this one walls 2, and wall left, wall 2 left, sorry, I need to put number 2 in there. And then we've got wall 2 right, and wall 2 center. Oh, just want to add the R into center because it's spelled wrong. And then what we can do is place that into walls, and we'll just create a new folder inside here, and we're going to place these ones for wall 1 into here, and we'll just call this wall 1 and delete the M in the middle. There we go. Okay, so let's just do one final check, make sure these all fit together nicely. Yeah, cool. Cool, yeah, if our character's walking along, I think that works. So we do end up with these kind of 3 beams in the middle, which make for an interesting sort of design. It breaks it up. Interesting structure. Okay. So let's just put these back. And there we go. So we are getting a bit of overlap where these need to be right on the bottom of there, I think, and then that needs to go up as well. Cool. And obviously where are these need to, this needs to move up. Cool, so I think we are running a pixel short or 2 on this, but as I say, we can make a new master copy later on when we start to actually properly map these out, so we can save that. Okay, so that's the walls. We've created an extra additional middle piece, which means that we would have a building design with sort of 3 pieces in here, so I may make an additional, as I said before, make an additional piece and then an extended piece, and obviously we need to make one with the pines going down, maybe. So around the door area, so what do we have? We have these now. So what we're going to do is, in the next tutorial, we're going to move on to the floor. Now, as the sound's going to reiterate, it's really important that you follow, so what we've learned today, follow the scale of your scene. Okay, as an indoor environment, although it's decided on the outside, once we go in, it needs to open up to allow our character to navigate through. Okay, it's really important that you don't make it smaller than the height. Obviously this is the same. I imagine with the floor we'll be able to go up to about this point, which sort of follows on quite nicely from the fact that she needs such as the roof there. But in terms of our actual space that she walks around, this should be really broad. Okay, otherwise we're not going to have, she's not going to be able to go anywhere, she's not going to be able to explore anything, okay, if we don't do that. So in the next tutorial we're going to focus on the floors, and so I'll see you there. Okay, good luck.